Howdy, guys. Welcome to night 27 in the Big Brother All-Stars house. This is Cliff Notes from outside the Big Brother house. Hope y'all are doing fantastic on this Monday evening, Tuesday morning. Just as a refresher, we had the veto ceremony yesterday morning. Kevin and Kaiser were on the block. Kevin had won veto. He pulls himself off the block. Enzo ends up taking the conservative route, like I think most people expected. Takes a conservative route, puts Christmas on the block. So Kevin is safe. It's going to come down to a vote now between Christmas and Kaiser on Thursday. And it sure seems like an almost certainty that Kaiser's going to go home. We'll see. But that doesn't mean that we didn't have plenty of interesting conversations this evening. The theme of tonight, people are seeing how important this next HOH is going to be. There's a lot of people that are starting to take a lot of these individual puzzle pieces, starting to put them together, and they're starting to figure out that some people may not be in the inner circle like they envisioned. And so it's getting ready to get fun, guys. Trust me, it's getting ready to get fun. So let's get right into it. Let's spend the next 15 minutes or so talk about some of those key conversations. First of all, several conversations I'm going to combine into one that happened earlier yesterday, but I think it's important for what we're going to talk about a little bit later over the overnight feeds. Tyler has told Davon that Dani is aiming for, that Dani wants her out the door if she can get her out the door. So obviously, Davon's a little concerned about that. Davon ends up talking to Enzo about it and says, Tyler says this, but Tyler and Bailey have both said, play dumb, don't say anything, don't go challenge Dani, just act cool, act chill with it. But we just want to let you know. But at the same time, while Davon and Enzo are talking, they're both wondering, why would Tyler tell Davon this in the first place? What's the motivation for her for him telling her that? And Davon's wondering did they tell Dani the same thing? Did they tell Dani that Davon's going after Dani or they tell Davon that Dani's coming after her? Did they tell Dani that Davon's, am I getting that right? Did they tell Dani that Davon's going after her the same way they told Davon that Dani is coming after Davon? I think that's right. So they are questioning that. Cody later is talking to Enzo, and he says, this is Tyler. Tyler is trying to get Davon to go after Dani. That's why he threw that out there. He wants Dani to do the dirty work potentially against Davon. Cody is also telling Enzo, he's a little concerned. He says, hey, the fact that Davon knows this, and she never came to me after hearing Tyler what he said, that's telling me that Davon does not trust me, Cody. And he's probably right. That's probably true. So the first step, the first domino maybe has been tipped over, and that Davon is now concerned about Dani and wondering what's going on. And play a role with some other conversations this evening. All right. One quick conversation in the bathroom. Kevin and Christmas are talking together. Christmas is saying, I was so surprised when Enzo put me up. Well, no, she volunteered. She knew she was going up, but obviously she doesn't want Kevin to know how tight that relationship is. So she's still keeping some secrets and everything. Just thought that was important to keep in mind going forward. Another conversation at the hammock. Lots of conversations in the hammock tonight. Now that the HOH's power is done, everything shifts to the backyard this evening. So in the hammock, Ian and Dani are talking. Dani is saying that Nicole wants to go after Bailey. They're both fine with that. They don't have any issue with that. They also think that if David wins the HOH, he would probably put up Memphis. He's still looking backwards instead of looking forwards, at least according to them. Dani tells Ian, she says, man, if I get HOH, I'm putting up Bailey, I'm putting up a pawn. I want Bailey going home. So that sounds like they're targeting Bailey as their first step if they get the power. Another conversation, again in the hammock. This is Dani and Nicole talking to each other. So Ian's left. Dani jumped right in place to figure out what's going on. Nicole is telling Dani, saying that Bailey would throw Dani and throw you and Cody under the bus in a heartbeat. I don't think Bailey would go after me, but Bailey's going to go after the two of y'all. And Dani responds and says, hey, most people want Davon going home first over Bailey. And she says it really probably benefits Cody to send Davon home as well. And I'm not sure I completely agree with that. But she said Bailey, most people want Bailey to go home. Davon to go home. And Nicole is saying, hey, Bailey's useful. We can pass information on to her that she then passes on to Christmas. Bailey has some usefulness that's better than Davon. So it seems like they're all kind of saying, hey, let's get Davon out the door. So you got Dani kind of going that direction. You got, but what's funny is just a little while ago, Dani had said, hey, I'm putting up Bailey. So Dani actually wants to go more against Bailey than she does Davon, but other people are trying to craft it a little bit differently. So we'll see what happens with that. Dani also is, now this is interesting. Dani is also saying that she talked to Tyler, and she said, did you not really know that Nicole didn't know about the Slick Six? You didn't really know that? Keep this in mind. Nicole already kind of threw Dani under the bus because in the last day or so, she had told, I think last night, she had told Tyler that Dani's the one who told her about the Slick Six alliance. So Dani's trying to mend some things by saying, hey, I thought Tyler knew. I really, he really didn't know. I was really giving information that he didn't already know. So she's trying to mend some fences, obviously. So there's still a little tension between those particular groups as well. So now another conversation, and this isn't a lot of strategy. I just thought this was kind of funny. In the comic room, Memphis and Bailey are talking. Bailey's talking about competitions where the house guests are kept up all night long trying to memorize things. My season, it was remembering bird calls, which we didn't even end up needing to have, but we didn't know at the time. So talking about where you have to stay up all night long, Memphis looks miserable considering that whole situation. There's no way he wants to do that. If they start at 9 o'clock, he's already in bed. So I just thought that was a little bit funny. Okay, conversation in the backyard. This is between Cody and Tyler talking. And they're talking again, this whole same conversation about Davon hearing that Dani was after her, immediately going up to Enzo and checking out a little bit, doing some fact checking. And Tyler doesn't like the fact. He says, man, Davon, she fact checks everything. I hate it. I can't stand it. She doesn't trust anyone. She fact checks everything in the world. Cody is worried that Davon's going to fact check with Dani. That she's gonna go back and say, I understand that you're coming after me, that you want to put me on the block and all of that. But he's figuring if she does that, they're going to put all the blame on Davon. They're not going to say that they warned her or anything. They're just going to say Davon is just paranoid. We've said all along that she's paranoid, and they're going to pin it all back on Davon and try to keep their names out of it. But they are a little bit worried about this conflict that may come up prematurely before names are put on the block and everything else. Another conversation, this is again on the hammock. This time it's Ian and Kevin talking. And Ian they're saying they want to compare notes with each other. They want to work together. Now, here's what's interesting. Ian has pretty much identified all of the alliance groups in this house. Not exactly, but pretty dang close. And he believes that Cody and Nicole are at the core of all of them. Ian, good job, my friend. Ian is saying that he's also saying the wall yeller that talked last night, he confirmed what I already suspected about Cody and Nicole. They're the base of everything. Ian also says he thinks if the guys win HOH, they're going to put up Bailey and Davon and take out one or the other. Now, here's the comment of the day. It's Ian's comment of the day. I think it's comment of the whole evening. It's this. I used to think that I was in the right core, but now I realize that everybody thinks that they're in the core. And he's right. They've been bringing all the different people in, so Ian's got it figured out. He's also saying that Nicole pulls in the girls, Cody pulls in the guys, and it's just like Cody and Nicole talked about week 1, night 1 or 2, saying they were going to basically do something that very similar to that, to bring in all these extra accessories into their alliance. So he's got that pretty much pegged out. He also is comparing this season to season 19. He's saying, hey, Janelle and Kaiser, they're kind of the opposition, just like Cody and Jessica were back in season 19. Cody and Nicole, they're just like Paul. They're bringing all these people in who all think that they're his best friends and part of the core alliance, but it's really just the two of them at the end of the day. So again, we're seeing people putting these puzzle pieces together and getting it all figured out. Another quick conversation. Enzo, Bailey, and Davon are talking. They're all agreeing, saying, Dani, we got to get her out. She is going to she's going to be disruptive, and we have to get her out now before she poisons the jury. We can't let her get to jury and have too much influence. So they're going to be shooting for her as quick as they can. She's getting a huge target on her back. All right, conversation in the love room. This is between Cody and Bailey. Bailey is telling Cody about all of this drama with Dani, about Dani going for Davon and all. And Bailey's concerned. She says, Cody, if you knew, this was a while back, and if you knew, not telling myself or Davon, it just makes you a little suspicious, makes us a little bit worried. Cody's denying it, says, no, I didn't know anything about it. I didn't hear anything till this morning. Tyler told me, so I was going to come talk to Davon. He's very nervous. He's playing dumb. And Bailey, I don't know that she's buying it, but she says, okay. They talk about David. Bailey says, hey, Davon's nervous because David said directly that he was part of a guy's alliance. It wasn't third hand. He said that he was part of an alliance. Cody says, no, David misunderstood. A bunch of guys said, we got your back. You know, you're not going anywhere. We got your back. He said, but that doesn't mean it's alliance. We just said we had his back, and he misunderstood. They go, okay. So now love room conversation. We've got Bailey and now Davon, and Bailey's rehashing what she just got through talking to Cody about. Davon's very suspicious. She's wondering if Cody's going to run right back and tell Dani everything that he and Bailey just got through talking about. Davon is worried that Tyler's telling Davon that Dani's coming after her, and Cody telling Dani that Davon is coming after her. So trying to set them up against each other. Both of them are upset that Cody never checks with them like he does everyone else to make sure they're good. And Bailey gets upset because Davon says, I think they're treating you like the new Victoria from back in season 16. They want a girl in the final two with the two of them, and they think that you're that. She's a little taken aback. Finally, Davon says that she wants David in jury, but the sooner he's gone, the better, because he's a big distraction that they just can't handle. So now, final conversation I'm going to cover in the next few minutes, and this was ongoing as I shut it down, but Kevin and Davon in the backyard. Kevin's figuring it out as well. Now, Kevin admittedly has had some not so perfect reads in this house. Is that an understatement? But he's getting this one figured out. He's telling Davon that, hey, Davon saying Dani is a big part of this alliance. He's saying, no, Dani is secondary. That Cody, Nicole, and Tyler, they're the core. They are the primary alliance, and Dani is just secondary to that. And he says, look, I know, I can't tell you how, but I know there was a lot of pre-gaming going on, and it involved Nicole, Cody, and Derek. And that there was some three-way calls maybe, and basically a strategy workbook was put together that Derek set a whole plan up in place for Cody and Nicole before they ever came into the house. He won't tell Davon who it was, and she really wants to know, but he won't know it. But he says, yeah, they're using a playbook created by Derek. The goal is to make everyone feel like they're part of the big alliance, sort of like Ian figured out a little bit earlier. But that in reality, it's Cody and Nicole, and they have grabbed Tyler and brought him as a +1. So it's the three of them. And the idea is to get all the others to think they're part of this alliance, but to get them to do the dirty work for them. Kevin is thinking that the two guys, Cody and Tyler, want to weaken Nicole because she has two shields. She has Ian and Dani that are kind of watching out for her. So they want to get Dani out of the picture to weaken Nicole a little bit, make it a little bit more even. So they want her gone. Hence Tyler telling Davon about Dani gunning for. Kevin's warning that if the core group wins OHOH, it's going to be Bailey, Davon, Kevin, or David on the block. He said, I guarantee it, we've got to do something about it. They don't really know what to do, but they're trying to figure it out. Kevin tells Davon, you cannot go confront Dani. He wants to bring Dani in. He wants to see if she can figure out, if they can convince her that she's not part of the core alliance, bring her over to her side because he wants her number as a vote. I don't think it's going to work because I don't think Dani's going to believe him. I think her ego said she's not going to believe that she isn't part of that core group, but we'll see. Davon, on the other hand, is pretty much saying, yeah, I think I want her gone. I don't think that's going to work. So there's a little discussion on that. We'll see how it lands. But they're starting to realize that they're on the short side, that they've got to have some votes. They need to win HOH. If they have HOH, then the numbers may be there that they can make something happen, but otherwise they're just going to keep getting picked off. But at least all these people are starting to figure out the alliances, which I love. I absolutely love. Finally talking about what would happen if Davon wins HOH. She says, I'm putting up Ian and Nicole. Cody's going to be my replacement. Maybe it's a backdoor. I don't know. So, all right, exciting, guys. We're getting ready to see some fireworks. So this HOH is going to be huge on Thursday, so I can't wait. Y'all have a great Tuesday. I will see y'all Wednesday morning. SKD 143. Cheers, guys. Bye.